Thank you. Good evening from BBC London. Coming up on the programme. A firearm is seized every single day on the streets of London, say the Met, with gangs fuelling a vicious cycle of violence. We speak to one of the many families affected.
We need to talk about firearms a lot more. It's not just about knife crime. No one's talking about gun crime. Believe me, gun crime is real.
Also ahead tonight. How a runaway cow intentionally hit by a police car in Staines is now recovering back on the farm. We'll have the latest from Surrey. Plus, why a mural dedicated to a young football fan who suffered a fatal cardiac arrest has been unveiled in West London. And
we're going to stretch our arms out, wave them about.
The sensory swimming sessions designed to help children with complex disabilities. Could there be more on the way? Hello and a very warm welcome to you. We start tonight with something that might shock you. Every single day, a firearm is seized from the streets of London, say the Met, adding that gangs are fueling a vicious cycle of violence. Only last month, a 9-year-old girl was left fighting for her life after a drive-by shooting in Dalston. The Met Police say serious gun violence is at a 15-year low, but recognise more needs to be done. That bigger picture in just a moment. First, our reporter Jessica Ewer has been out with officers on a firearms raid.
It's 4 a.m. at an unidentified location in West London, and we're out with the Met. This raid has been planned for the last 2 years. The aim is bringing dangerous firearms out of circulation in the capital. We pull up to the first address, along with dozens of specialist officers and police vans. It's one of 11 addresses that the Met are targeting today. The property is identified and we head inside the building. Today is the last day of Operation Hopefield, an investigation spanning 2 years aimed specifically at taking some of the most dangerous gangs in Westminster off London streets, and specifically targeting firearms. At the first location, 2 arrests are made.
Over the last 2 weeks, I'm pleased to say that we have arrested 52 high harm nominals. We've recovered 10 lethal barreled firearms, 6 imitation firearms, 2.5 kilos of cocaine, and over £100,000 of criminal assets. These offenders are exploiting young people and vulnerable children and causing misery to the communities of Westminster and surrounding boroughs.
Whilst the property is searched for evidence, we get back in the van and wait for the go-ahead. Then it's off to another location, this time a flat above a shop on a high street. The early hour allows for the element of surprise. And again, we head inside.
It's been quite shocking, I think, when we get an insight into the lives of some of these criminal gangs and criminal networks, that we see just how many weapons that they carry. Some are quite shocking. They're Rambo knives, there's swords, there's crossbows, as well as obviously weapons that are capable of killing another human being.
One person who knows exactly how devastating firearms can be is Mother Jackie. She lost her son Tyrese in 2023 when he was fatally shot after a night out in a case of mistaken identity.
I needed to tell my daughters myself, and I remember sitting in the back of the police car and all I said is, Tyrese is dead. They didn't say anything, they just screamed, and I remember they both jumped out of the car and I jumped out and we just held each other and they screamed and they were crying. We need to talk about firearms a lot more. It's not just about knife crime. No one's talking about gun crime. Believe me, gun crime is real. Gun crime is so real.
In total, Operation Hopefield targeted 42 addresses in the last 2 weeks. The hope is that every weapon seized could be a life saved. Jessica Yore, BBC London.
Well, I mentioned the bigger picture. With more now from New Scotland Yard, our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jessup sent this report.
Following the shooting in Dalston, the Met's been trying to reassure Londoners about what it's doing to try to tackle gun crime and keep Londoners safe. Recent figures from the Office for National Statistics showed there'd been a 20% rise in overall gun crime last year. But the Met says that when you look at lethal barrel discharges, so that's lethal weapons actually being fired, that's down to the lowest level in 15 years. It says around half of that is being driven by gangs and organised crime. But it says it's bringing more prosecutions. So in more than half of cases last year, an offender was brought to justice. Of course, that lends itself to the question, what about the other half? I've been asking about what the key challenges are.
Well, I think the key challenges are about the trust of the community and victims themselves. Often the victims are engaged in criminality, is the reality of it, and they need to trust us to keep them safe and for us to prosecute those who've inflicted such awful injuries to them. So some of that is again about building trust within the community. Come forward, step forward and give evidence to us.
He said another key concern is converted weapons, so blank firing guns, which are often used legally in dramas and in farming. Criminals are getting hold of those and illegally converting them into lethal weapons. And he said around one firearm a day was being seized from London's streets last year. Around 46% of those, he said, were these converted weapons. He said the likelihood of being a victim of gun crime in London is still very low, but as we saw in Dalston, sometimes innocent bystanders are being caught up in crossfire. He said building trust with communities will be key to getting that intelligence and getting those weapons off the streets.
That was Sonia Jessup, our Home Affairs correspondent outside New Scotland Yard. Now, you may have seen the distressing incident over the weekend of a police car intentionally hitting a cow that was on the loose in Surrey, not once, but twice. The officer involved has been removed from frontline duties while the incident is investigated. Well, let's get the latest now from our reporter Paul Hawkins, who's in Surrey for us tonight. Hi, Paul.
Yeah, hi Riz. I have to say that cow is not from this herd. We're going to find out more about how to deal with cows when they're in that sort of urban environment. We've been trying to find out more answers to the questions as to how that cow escaped and also what are the police guidelines when something like that happens. Now, today we tracked down two individuals, two men who helped the police capture the cow on Friday night in Feltham, and this is what they told us.
Yeah. There was a little car here, a silver car parked, and then the police car hit it. Okay. And then I think it hit it twice.
And then it ended up in the park here, and that's where you caught it.
Yeah, we were very lucky that they must have got it into here, and then it was easy after that. Once we got it in there, I knew I could catch it easy.
I come down there, I managed to get inside the park here, so I managed to get a cattle trailer, and then we put the cattle trailer in the corner. And me and Donald here, managed to get around into the cattle trailer a few times.
There was maybe 20 policemen here. Didn't have a clue what they were doing, all young police officers. 2 or 3 were crying. She come round and come straight at me. Knocked me up again, knocked me back and went through. So we moved the trailer down further, a smaller gap. We got the car in the middle, we're around the outside, coaxing it through. And a miracle, it went into the trailer.
And that was,
I was like a rabbit, flew to the trailer, flicked the 2 gates round quickly, back up.
I'm happy that we managed to save it because the police want to shoot it and put it down. So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But the damage can be repaired.
No, the deal is she's safe.
Yeah.
We're happy with that. She's back where she should be with her mum or whatever.
Right. Now, that's what 2 individuals told us about what happened on Friday night. We've asked Surrey Police for a statement today, asked them for guidelines on how they deal with incidents like that, and they have said that they will come back to us, but they haven't at the moment. We can say that the officer who was driving that car, we have to repeat, has been removed from frontline duties, and Surrey Police have referred themselves to the IOPC, that's the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the police watchdog, to look into the matter. We can talk now to Hugh, who's a local Surrey farmer, who can tell us about how to deal with the cows that have just walked off, actually. That's one way to deal with them, Hugh, isn't it?
Scare them away.
Yeah, but how do you think, I mean, we've heard from one man there who says he's very experienced in dealing with cows. How would you have dealt with that situation on Friday night?
Do you know, there's been so much armchair punditry around this. It's really hard to say either way. I think unless you were actually there, and judging by what was going on, you know, that animal was pretty stressed. You could tell there's the way its action, its body language. It was a really, really tricky situation. Thankfully, it's a very rare situation. It's very rare to find an animal like this in the middle of a very urban environment like Feltham, thankfully.
Yeah.
You know, the cows jump out of fields all the time. You know, even the best fenced field in the world, you know, a cheeky cow will jump out of it every so often, and you can never say never, but generally it's in quite a rural context, and they just sort of, you know, can be easily walked back in. But there, it's a really, really difficult situation, and horrendous for the animal and for all the people involved. It's really distressing.
I mean, it didn't look great, but the way it turned out, the public were safe. The cow in the end was safe. Maybe the police could have dealt with it in a better way, or did they take the only course of action they could, do you think?
Look, until they've done their investigation, it's going to be really hard to say either way, because we didn't know what resources they had, we don't know what was going on. You know, in a perfect world, you would have perhaps set up a pen somewhere, but then you've got to try and herd it, and then you've got to try and know where to put that. So, like I say, it's really, really tricky.
So do you think that there should be training for police, or more guidelines?
We, here in Surrey, we do loads of work with Surrey Police on all number of rural matters. You know, rural crime's a big issue, whether it's fly tipping or dogs worrying livestock and all that sort of thing. We teach them the basics of how to sort of herd animals. Not every officer gets to attend that.
Okay.
But I think,
so maybe the officers hadn't had that training then about how to deal with these kind of.
We don't know until they've done their investigation. But what we need to make sure is that we support them 100%. So in future they know who to call and where to go, and also that we make sure we support them 100% to know where all the animal keepers are. Because in a perfect world, if they knew the animal had escaped or someone had spotted something and they could alert those animal keepers, then the sooner they can get them back in, the better it is for the animal, and we don't have any of this, the poor thing getting so stressed out and that happening.
And just very quickly, the cow, and we can show our viewers some pictures of the cow now. Lucy, I believe it is Bo Lucy, 9 months old, is doing well, we hear, and has been reunited with her owner. Do cows suffer any sort of psychological trauma from that?
Look, the cow's in the best care, and hopefully the cow will make a full recovery and can sort of get back to normal and move on. But I say this is a really, really rare scenario, and hopefully we won't see it happen again. And we, certainly as a farming community in Surrey, will do all we can to work with the police to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Great stuff. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you so much. And to your herd as well, who are clearly are camera shy, but behaving themselves in this field, in their environment, which is where a cow should be, Riz.
OK, Paul, with the latest there. Thanks ever so much. Paul Hawkins. OK, a roundup now of some of the day's other stories. A water park has been fined £80,000 after an 11-year-old girl from South London drowned while attending a birthday party. Kyra Hill from Croydon was found more than an hour after she went missing at Liquid Leisure in Berkshire in August 2022. The company previously pleaded guilty to failing to ensure the safety of a member of the public. Pro-Palestinian student protesters have dismantled their month-long encampment on the ground floor of the Marshall Building at the London School of Economics. Dozens of demonstrators emptied out the hall minutes before the 4 p.m. deadline given by a court order, which gave them 24 hours to leave the premises. Some remaining activists have now gathered outside. Transport for London is considering increasing night tube services during the busiest times. At the moment, it runs on 5 underground lines on Friday and Saturday nights. Most trains are every 10 minutes, with slightly longer waiting times on some services. The Mayor said TfL is now looking at the case for improving the frequency between midnight and 1:30. And tennis, and Sutton's Jack Draper replaces Cameron Norrie as the British men's #1 today. Yesterday, he came from a set down to beat Italy's Matteo Berrettini and win his first ever ATP Tour title in Stuttgart. This week, he'll be in action in London as the Queen's Club Championships get underway. Next, one family's story that highlights the housing crisis here in the capital. Irina contacted us about her terminally ill stepfather who fled Ukraine with her mum, now living with her and her family in a 2-bedroom flat in Hounslow. Last year, a judge agreed that the family should be moved to a 4-bedroom house, but the council says there are none available. Anna O'Neill picks up the story.
So that is how we live.
For Irina, moving her parents to London from the war in Ukraine has been less than easy. Stepdad Petro has been sleeping on the floor of her home in Hounslow while having chemotherapy for terminal pancreatic cancer.
And that is.
And you're working at this
And I'm working
here.
this table. Everything is here.
Petro and Irina's mum Uliana were living in a war zone.
So it was always a lot of, rocket attacks. So as I always live in fear, that's why my priority was to evacuate them as soon as possible, because I was really worried for their life.
And now she's really worried for Petro's life at home in London, where he should be sleeping on a special hospital bed, but there's no room.
He has got a lot of infections, and that is proven by hospital admissions. And Royal Mason said that we're not even happy with that, because that means that cancer treatments, the main cancer treatment, is put on hold for sometimes because of the infection for a few months, but that means that his prognosis is worse and worse.
Irina's family had already asked the council for a bigger home before the arrival of her parents, and now the situation is critical.
We just need a bigger house with separate room for my parents, so we'd be able to put a hospital bed and with wheelchair access. It's a High Court judgment telling that council was acted unlawfully. That is a Court of Appeal judgment, and that is decision of the panel.
So basically the council was told that they had to do an exceptional needs assessment to allow you an easier route to getting a bigger home. Hounslow Council told us, like other London boroughs, Hounslow Council faces an acute shortage of larger homes. When households approach us for housing assistance, we thoroughly assess their applications in accordance with our published allocations policy and provide the most suitable accommodation available. The family needs a bigger house soon because time is running out.
It's unfortunately getting worse and worse every day, because Petra is in constant pain, and not always, even morphine didn't help, so they changed to stronger painkillers. He's just suffering every day in such conditions.
Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
Now, this is Libby Peveril, a football fan who died suddenly after a cardiac arrest last year. She was just 20 years old. Her mural in Hammersmith is one of several unveiled across the country by the British Heart Foundation to highlight the issue of sudden cardiac death among younger people and calling for more research into it. Lakshmi Gopal has been speaking to her family in West London.
You couldn't ask for a better sister. The bond between me and Libby was unbreakable. One of them sisters who would just do anything for me. If anyone said anything about my wheelchair, she'd be comfort me. She'd just do anything for me. She was just lovely.
Libby was Charlie's younger sister, an aspiring beautician and a huge Chelsea fan.
Whatever game was on, she'd watch it and that. So she'd cheer every single time.
Libby was just 20 when she died at her parents' home in February 2023.
She woke up with saying that she had a little bit of a niggle in her chest. She drank a cup of tea. She stood up after she drank a cup of tea, and all of a sudden she goes, "Dad, help me," and collapsed in my dad's arms. It was just unreal, and from this day on it was still unreal.
It must still feel really raw.
It does. People say it gets easier. It never gets easier. It gets harder.
Libby's death was caused by blockages in her coronary arteries. The British Heart Foundation has unveiled a mural of her in Hammersmith, one of a dozen portraits around the country to highlight the 12 people aged under 35 who die every week in the UK due to sudden cardiac death. Coinciding with the Euros tournament, the paintings are of young footballers or fans who died too soon. A British Heart Foundation survey has found a lack of public understanding around heart disease affecting young people.
So when you hear about a young person, fit and well, collapsing and dying suddenly, and we often hear about it in the context of an athlete who collapses in front of a crowd or a television, most of the time that's a genetic disorder.
Scientists are working on pioneering gene therapy to try to find a way to prevent the deaths. In the meantime, the murals are to aid awareness and are also a comforting vision to loved ones left behind.
Just to have Libby's picture on the wall, it just brings so much joy and happiness, because we know her memory's still there. She's always going to be there for us, and we're always going to be there for her.
Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
A lovely tribute there. Now to a first-of-its-kind aqua disco, complete with special lighting, inflatable props and Taylor Swift songs, that's been set up in a North London leisure centre designed for children with complex disabilities. The charity behind it says it's proven so popular in Barnet, it's hoped more sessions could be expanded across the capital.
It's got the lights, it's got the music, it's got friends, and she just absolutely loves it, and she's thriving from all the benefits.
It just means that he can be free, really enjoy his time there, have things to play with, socialise with other children.
Ariana has a condition called global development delay, and this affects her movement and her ability to navigate in spaces. So movement in water is fantastic, and this sensory swimming is exactly what Ariana needs in order to be able to learn to balance herself.
Since we've been attending on a regular basis, it's provided him with a very safe space to become very confident in water.
Imagine you're splashing in the water. Again, show me how you... Because of the fact that many children with additional needs, their muscles don't perform as well as able-bodied children. They need all that exercise, and the water supports them to be able to do that.
We're going to stretch our arms out, wave them about.
The session's set up for individuals with complex disabilities between the age of 4 and 16 years old. There's sensory lights in the pool, there's lots of equipment, things like inflatable guitars and microphones. And the instructor really leads a really fun hour with music. There are games like What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, musical statues. We run about 2 a month at the moment, but we've definitely got demand to be running more. We hear a lot that there's not many opportunities for those with particularly complex disabilities to be active in the community. So this is exactly why our fund from Sport England is really important. We get to work with leisure providers, with instructors like Lindsay today, to put on sessions and to make sure that there is something for these families to do.
She's getting twice, maybe thrice as much activity, and her muscle tones has improved tremendously since she started swimming. She's so much more confident when walking. She's able to move herself, and she's just going from strength to strength because of this program. So it's been wonderful for us.
Great stuff. Now, just before the weather, if you've got a head for heights, have a look at this. The Royal Air Force has released cockpit footage filmed as its jets flew over central London to mark the King's official birthday on Saturday. There goes the London Eye. It was King Charles's first Trooping the Colour ceremony as monarch. Check out the video on our website for other bird's eye views of famous landmarks. And talking of a head for heights, let's join Corsa now on the roof of this very building on a nice sunny evening for a look at the weather. And Corsa, it feels good to say that.
Oh, it does indeed, Riz. To be out of the studio in the sunshine here, a beautiful scene behind me, plenty of sunshine, and it is starting to feel like June today. We've had plenty of sunshine around and warmth as well. Temperatures quite widely reached the low 20s, and some lovely pictures sent in from our weather watchers as well. This beautiful one from Richmond upon Thames. And we are going to see more in the way of dry weather to come over the next few days. Tomorrow too should be largely dry with some spells of sunshine, but there is a chance of some showers and a bit of uncertainty. I'll get to that in a moment, but for the time being, it's fine. It's dry for most of us for this evening as well. There may be 1 or 2 isolated showers, but there should be a lot of dry weather. So late spells of sunshine, clear spells overnight, and temperatures, well, dipping down to around 9 to around 12 Celsius for tomorrow morning. But if we take a wider look at the bigger picture for tomorrow, and you can see there is a frontal system over France. Now, this is bringing outbreaks of showery rain, and it is set to track northeastward, so it may bring some outbreaks of rain across more southeastern parts of the UK tomorrow. And for us, that means potentially more in the way of cloud, some showery rain potentially across parts of Surrey and Essex, but there is some uncertainty, so do keep up to date with the forecast. At the moment, it does look like it should be largely dry for us, with some sunshine around and temperatures again the high teens to the low 20s. And for tomorrow evening too, it should be fine and dry with clear skies developing. There will be some cloud perhaps by the end of the night, and temperatures tomorrow night too, quite mild, 10 to 12 degrees. And then high pressure does take a bit more charge over the next few days. For Wednesday, for Thursday, we are expecting plenty of fine dry weather, some good spells of sunshine, especially for Thursday, and temperatures quite widely reaching the low 20s, 20 to 23 Celsius. Now, by the end of the week, though, there is some uncertainty again. There is a chance we could see some rain on Friday, but we will, of course, keep you updated. At the moment, it does look like a lot of dry weather over the next few days, and certainly feeling more like June, Riz. So lots of sunshine in store.
Thanks, Corsa. Well, summer finally got the memo, don't you think? And that is where we leave you. A reminder, if you haven't registered to vote in the general election, I should tell you, you've got until the end of tomorrow to do so, and you can find all the details you need to know on our Instagram and Facebook. I should also say, if you're a Beatles fan, our website at the usual address has more on Sir Paul McCartney performing once again on the London stage later this year. In fact, it is just before Christmas at the O2. For now, though, from me and everyone on the team, enjoy this bright, sunny evening. Bye-bye.